He's the biggest, strongest, and scariest player to ever step foot on the NHL ice.
Here's Chára, the drive, scores!
Chára's telling him, really? You really want to do that? Chára and Boyle going at it.
Here's Chára walking down Broadway, he scores!
Zdeno Chára was totally off the NHL radar as a teenager. He got passed over by every team in the 1995 draft, the first year he was eligible. In 1996, Mike Milbury, who was the GM of the Islanders, got word of a monster who was incredibly raw but had an intensely competitive nature playing overseas. In his draft interview, he asked Chára if he could fight, and he was sold on his answer. The Islanders drafted Chára 56th overall in the 1996 draft. Chára came to North America to compete in the WHL for the Prince George Cougars. After one season in junior, Chára transitioned to play professional hockey. The Isles shuffled him back and forth from the NHL to the AHL, but the potential was very clear.
The most vulnerable I ever was Zdeno Chára. And the game's over. There's only like 7 minutes left in the game or something. All of a sudden I feel this bump and I look and I see this giant. I didn't know this guy was a tough guy. And I've never been immobilized more by a guy in my life because I'm fairly strong. Later in his career, he would have broke my face.
By 1999, Chára had earned a role as a full-time NHL player and was quickly becoming a fan favorite in Long Island.
He'll score. He does! How about that? Coffee. Out to the blue line, Chára, he shoots, he scores! And the Islanders won't go away!
Yet, the incompetent Islanders had him pegged as a physical, stay-at-home defenseman that would never become an offensive weapon. The Islanders were really, really bad. One of the worst teams in the league. Mike Milbury was a laughably incompetent general manager. At his exit interview after getting fired as head coach, Butch Goring told Milbury that trading Chára would be the biggest mistake of his life. However, Milbury traded for the Senators' uber-skilled but disgruntled Russian center, Alexei Yashin. In return, he gave up Zdeno Chára, Bill McCult, and a first-round pick, which the Sens used to draft Jason Spezza. Yashin signed a 10-year, $87.5 million contract with the Islanders, and Chára joined a talented Senators bunch ready to compete for a playoff spot. Chára put up career highs with 10 goals and 23 points in his first season with Ottawa. He led the Sens with a +30 rating. The Sens beat the Flyers in the first round of the playoffs.
He does. He gets in behind Chára. He thinks he's got an opportunity. And that long reach of Zdeno Chára.
Then, they lost in the second round in a hard-fought 7-game series to the Maple Leafs. The following season, Chára and the Senators leaped to new heights. Chára scored 39 points and was named an All-Star for the first time in his career. He helped the Senators win the President's Trophy as the best team in the regular season. In the first round, they beat the Islanders in 5 games. Then, they beat the Flyers in 6.
Now Chára's going, and he's just renting some. Oh, look out. Chára's got a hold of somebody, and this isn't pretty either.
Oh, he's got Matty Tamander, and I don't like Tamander's chances here. He better just cover up here because he is going to get tagged bad, and Tamander is looking for help.
Leading to a conference finals matchup against the New Jersey Devils. The series went all the way to 7 games before Jeff Friesen scored a game-winning goal late in the third to send the Devils to the finals. For Chára and the Sens, it was back to the drawing board. Zdeno Chára continued to improve for the Sens, scoring 16 goals in each of the next 2 seasons. But Ottawa was unable to find success in the playoffs and started to shake things up. Following the lockout-cancelled season, the Senators traded away their top scorer Marian Hossa in exchange for Danny Heatley. The Senators remained the best offensive team in the league with Heatley in their lineup, but lost to the Sabres in 5 in the second round of the playoffs.
And here's a chance. Chára fought and scored! Buffalo wins! Buffalo wins!
Both Wade Redden and Zdeno Chára's contracts expired, and the Sens opted to extend Redden to a 2-year contract worth $13 million and let Zdeno Chára walk to free agency. Zdeno Chára signed a 5-year contract worth $37.5 million with the Boston Bruins, making him the second highest paid defender in the league to Nicklas Lidstrom. At the time, the Bruins were lacking identity. They traded away Joe Thornton the previous season and were in need of leadership. Chára became the team's captain and quickly proved that he was a worthy leader at the highest level. Big Z's presence was felt in the locker room and on the ice, even at practice. He believed that his team should work so hard in practice that the games felt easy in comparison. The Bruins, a franchise with a historic reputation for being big, bad, and tough, became an embodiment of their captain. In 2007, Chára won the hardest shot competition at the All-Star Game, a contest he won for 5 consecutive seasons. In 2009, he broke the all-time record in the competition by shooting the puck 105.4 miles per hour. In 2012, he shot the puck at an earth-shattering 108.8 miles per hour, a record that still stands to this day. Chára led the Bruins back to the playoffs as they regained their identity. He set career highs with 17 goals and 51 points. In 2009, Chára continued to improve, earning the first and only Norris Trophy given to the best defenseman in the entire league, a notch on his resume that officially put him in a tier with the greats. All that was left to do was win a Stanley Cup. The Bruins continued to improve every season and had raised their reputation to that of contender status. In 2010, the Bruins were up 3-1 in a second-round series to the Flyers, before losing 3 straight in a historical meltdown.
We'll never be able to forget. The Flyers win Game 7, coming from 0-3 down to take it 4-3. They win the series from 0-3 down to win it 4 games to 3.
Year after year, the Bruins found more players that fit the mold of tough, hardworking two-way players. Forwards like Bergeron, Recchi, Lucic, Krejci, and Marchand followed Chára's lead. Having the most dominant athlete in the league behind them allowed every player to play bigger than their size. In March 2011, Chára annihilated Max Pacioretty into the stanchion with one of the most devastating hits ever. Pacioretty was stretchered off the ice and hospitalized. Many were calling for Chára to get suspended, but the league deemed that Chára didn't intentionally hurt the Habs forward.
I feel bad about what happened and trying to make strong hockey play, and very unfortunate, like I said, that the player got hurt and I had to leave the game.
The Bruins entered the 2011 playoffs with the belief that it could be their year. They were far from the most skilled team in the league, but they prided themselves in being the hardest to play against. And they got in a heated matchup in round 1 against a rival Habs team that hated Chára from his hit earlier in the year. The Habs won the first 2 games of the series, pegging the Bruins' backs to the wall early. The team could have folded, but instead, under the leadership of Chára, they galvanized. Boston won 4 of the next 5 games to win the series in 7. 3 of the games Boston won went to overtime, including the final game in which Nathan Horton sent them to the second round. With the wind at their sails, the Bruins swept Philadelphia in the second round, getting redemption from the previous season. The conference finals against Tampa Bay went to 7 games before the Bruins grinded out a 1-0 win in the series finale, leading the Bruins to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they would match up against the President Trophy winning Vancouver Canucks. The two teams were built very differently. The Canucks were the highest scoring team in the league, led by the Sedin twins, 2 of the greatest passers of their era. Behind them, the Canucks had tons of skill and feistiness, and of course, Roberto Luongo was amongst the best goalies in the world. In contrast, the Bruins were an old-school, meat-and-potatoes group that aimed to grind you down with physicality. It was truly one of the most entertaining and hate-filled finals in recent NHL memory. The Canucks took a 2-0 series lead after 2 straight games that were incredibly close. Once again, the Bruins had their backs up against the wall. Then this happened.
Nathan Horton on the fly. Milan Lucic with a shot. Ends up in the corner. And Horton is down and he's hurt.
That was Aaron Rome who just got him hard.
Nathan Horton was hospitalized with a severe concussion and never returned to the series. Rome received a misconduct. A massive wind jolted into the sails of the Bruins. The collision proved to be a turning point in the series as the Bruins cranked up the physicality after the play. They began to realize that they could muscle their way over the Canucks. That was largely thanks to Chára. At the end of the day, he was the fiercest player on the ice and the last guy the Canucks actually wanted a piece of. The Bruins went on to win Game 3 by a blowout score of 8-1. They followed that up with a 4-0 shutout in Game 4 to tie the series. In the third period, more chaos ensued with Big Z right in the middle of it. Vancouver regrouped on home ice on the back of Luongo, winning Game 5 1-0. Boston went back home with their backs against the wall again. As they did over and over again in these playoffs, they responded with a masterpiece, a 5-2 win, culminating in a Game 7 in Vancouver. It seemed like the Canucks had run out of energy at this point. The locker room was basically filled with the Walking Dead. They came out dull, and the Bruins skated right over them for 60 minutes straight.
They score! A lot of traffic in front, and Patrice Bergeron has gotten the first goal of the game. But a wraparound attempt by Marchand. He scores! Marchand! And it's 2-0. Bergeron who moves in. Bergeron protects, and down to the ice he goes. The puck wound up going into the net. It's 3-0. A shorthanded goal for Bergeron. The net's still empty. Dropping back as BX has a goalie. Marchand the shot. He scores! Marchand for the first time in 39 years. The Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Tim Thomas won the Conn Smythe Trophy, but Zdeno Chára was truly the anchor and leader of that team. The run officially cemented his legacy as one of the all-time greats. After the season, Chára was recognized as the greatest leader in hockey with the Mark Messier Award. He continued to captain the Bruins for 9 more seasons after winning the Stanley Cup. The Bruins remained the biggest and baddest team in the league as long as Chára was wearing the C. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 more times during his tenure. Once in 2013 when they lost to the Blackhawks, then again in 2019 when they fell to the St. Louis Blues. During the series, Chára took a shot to the face that significantly broke his jaw, a gruesome injury. But Big Z didn't miss a beat, suiting up for the next game despite the injury, proving that he was as tough as they could come. He set the precedent as to what it means to be a Boston Bruin. Chára was an absolute workhorse into his 40s, defying the odds. At age 43, Chára signed a contract with the Washington Capitals. Then at age 44, he took his career full circle, signing with the New York Islanders, the franchise that originally drafted him and gave him his first shot. In his final season, Chára broke the legendary Chris Chelios record for most games played by a defenseman in NHL history. When it was all said and done, Big Z had a career like no other. The biggest, strongest, and most ferocious player to ever lace him up. Zdeno Chára holds records for his iconic slapshot speed. He's the only defenseman in NHL history to accumulate 200 goals and 2,000 penalty minutes. But Chára was far from a gimmick. One of the greatest leaders of his time, Chára is in the rare company of players to win both a Norris Trophy and a Stanley Cup in their career.